From the studios in beautiful Oceanport, New Jersey, welcome to the biggest and greatest podcast ever. I'm your host, Ray K. Hey everybody, Ray K here, another edition of Catching Up with Ray K. First off, I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. It's starting to really explode. I'm getting a lot of good viewers, getting a lot of good reviews. A lot of people are liking my guests. We're getting exciting guests on the show. I got a lot more exciting guests coming on, which is really exciting because I love doing this. So when you do listen, make sure you share it, make sure you subscribe to it, and just keep listening because I'm going to give my own brand of being me to these interviews, and we got some good exciting stuff on this edition of Catching Up with Ray. I'm going to talk about serendipity, how important that is in life, how that seems to come into people's lives, where you have something unexpected come up, maybe a combination of things, and then the third thing out of that combination is something you would have never thought before, but you needed those first two things to happen. I'm going to talk about something that when I went to Florida, it would look like it was a bad situation. Some guy didn't show up on me, but then it turned into a great thing where I had a very good meeting, which I'm going to talk about, and then I had a learning experience at the end of it. So it's like three things happen in this one shot, which is going to talk about in my first section. Then I'm going to talk about July 4th and what July 4th means to me. We're all individuals, so we all have our own opinions on things, which is the way it's supposed to be, especially in the free society. So I'm going to talk about Independence Day, or July 4th as we call it, and what it means to me. So that's going to be a fun little part. And then I'm going to end it with my top 10, my definitive top 10 basketball players of all time in order. So I think I got another good definitive list. So throughout this, I'm going to give probably all my sports top 10s. And people seem to like when I do that because, sports is a big part of my life. And I think I'm pretty accurate in what I predict as far as the top 10. I had the baseball one a couple weeks ago. So this one will be basketball. So I'm going to talk about my trip to Florida, which was the serendipity version of my podcast. So I go to Florida, and, the night before I booked the flight, this guy gives me a good pitch, and he seems very well connected. And I said, you know what? I like this so much. I introduced him to somebody, and they were going to meet on the weekend, and this was a Tuesday, and it was a huge, huge deal. So I said, you know what, I'll meet you out there in Puerto Rico. And then the guy suggested I fly out to Florida to meet him like the next day, which was a Wednesday. So I took him up on that. I pay for it. And I said, you know what, I'll fly out and you pay for the hotel room. That seems to be the standard way to do the business, so you both have the, as they say, the skin in the game. So he says, okay. So I booked the flight. Of course, it's a little expensive going out the next day. I'm leaving like first flight the next morning. It's 9:00 at night and I'm booking this thing. About $600 for a round trip, which wasn't crazy, but it's probably like half that if you plan it out a week or two. So I'm thinking, okay, this is worth it. I'm showing my good faith. I'm flying out there on like an hour's notice. I just meet this guy on the telephone 2 hours before, and he's paying for the hotel room. So I go, sounds good. Worst case, at least I'll meet somebody. I'll get some nice, good weather in Florida, and who knows what's going to happen. So anyway, we booked the flight, and so I get out there early, which I like doing. Wait a minute. What time did I leave now? I'm kind of thinking about this. No, excuse me. It wasn't the first flight. It was 1:00. I was going to go at 4, but I went to 1, so I got there at 4. So I had, most of that night and the next day. So he's going to pick me up at the airport. And of course, there's thunder showers. It's typical Florida summer. It's kind of humid. Thunder showers coming down, torrential rain, then it stops. This guy's stuck in traffic, so he calls Uber. Uber's stuck in traffic. Usually I thought Uber is about 15 minutes at most. Well, it's not true. Uber could take hours to get to you. So I'm waiting an hour, and then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna come get you. I'm in traffic already. I'm waiting, so I'll just keep coming up to the airport. So all right, so him and his wife is in the car, so they eventually pick me up about 2.5 hours after I get there. So it was a little bit of a long wait. I was undercover outside, so it was okay. Lightning coming down. I figure I'm safe under this cover. Who knows? So I survived that, and we go out to dinner, and they booked me at the wrong hotel. They booked me at the right hotel, but it was 25 miles away. So we went to 2 hotels, and it was the wrong one. And then the right one they found out was 25 miles outside of Fort Lauderdale. which was where we were going to have the meeting the next day. So lo and behold, we booked the hotel at that place, at the third place we went, just to get a place for me to stay. It wasn't the greatest hotel, but I mean, they had a pool and the room was pretty good, so it wasn't bad. We had a good dinner, ate a lot of food. He paid for all the dinner, which was nice. And so it was okay. So the next day we're going to meet at 10 o'clock. He has a big meeting at 10. He's going to pick me, either he's going to pick me up at 9 or his partner will pick me up at 9, which I could get to meet him too. So, okay, everything sounds good. I usually don't sleep well the night before a meeting because, I'm in a new place. I'm in a new hotel. I'm up at like 2:30 in the morning watching ESPN. I just can't get to sleep. I finally get to sleep, wake up early. I like getting up early when I'm away at warm weathered places because I walk around, you go on the beach. It's a new place. You got a little adrenaline going. So anyway, I call him at 9:30 because he's gonna pick me up at 10, and no answer. Okay, I could live with that. So come 10 o'clock, I'm thinking, okay, now I'm supposed to meet him at 10. Did he mean he's going to pick me up at the hotel at 10, or I thought we were meeting at 10? So that could get messed up. So I call him at 10, no answer. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll try him another half hour. I'm on the beach. I'm walking around. It's nice out. And there's a pool area there. So I have a big breakfast. I said, at least I'll eat a lot of breakfast. Of course, I put it on the room that he's paying for because, I was going to pay for it if he would have picked me up. But I'm thinking this guy's making me wait. I'm going to eat a lot of breakfast. So I had a nice big breakfast, buffet, omelet, the works. So I'm eating for like an hour. I'm having a couple cups of coffee. I'm reading the USA Today that they give away for free. So I call him at 11. Okay, no answer. So I'm thinking, this is starting to get a little weird, So I'm here all the way out here. Now I'm thinking there's another person I could meet at around 2 or 3. I got my plane's leaving at 6, so I'm cutting it a little bit tight. But there is another person that I might be doing a little business with that is in Miami, which is close by Fort Lauderdale. So I got her in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, this guy's in Shaw, I'm going to meet her. And 12 o'clock comes, I call up, no answer. So now I kind of figure it out that something happened. Either this guy blew me off, or I don't even know what, or something happened to him. Maybe he got sick or got dangerously injured or something. So around 12:31, I give up on him. I'm like, okay, so that's a bust. As weird as that sounds, I fly all the way out here and the guy doesn't show up. And I call the lady up. I take an Uber to meet her at this shopping center place in Miami. And I get there. She's waiting for me out there. Spoken to her on the phone about 10 times. We're putting together this deal. I'm like the third guy in the deal, but I could bring a component into the deal that helps it. So I'm always like the third guy that they plug in on the call, and I just say, hi, how you doing? And I'm like in the background. So I'm like a nobody, but I'm the mysterious guy that brought everybody together. So I got a little mystique going because, I'm the mysterious Ray. So I meet the lady, and we have a real nice place. She gets this table that she says she has reserved like indefinitely. It's always her table in the back. So we have a really nice fish dinner, just like a seafood place. I don't even know what shrimp and stuff like that. And we have about an hour and a half lunch, and it's great. So she's telling me all those stories. Her grandfather actually started the Cleveland Browns, which I thought was real cool. He goes, check him out. So McBride is his last name. So I check him out. I'm like, wow, it's true. Tell me those stories, and growing up, with that kind of influence, and her father started this cab type business, and he was from Cleveland, and some pretty cool stories about Cleveland. And so we're hitting it off. I'm a good listener, as people that know me know that. So I'm listening, and she likes talking. So it's so it's a pretty nice little connection we got going. And I could tell that it's going great. And then she's like, you know what? I want you to be my lead person, and you should be my liaison. I could have you meet with presidents of countries, or I could have you meet with the gardener. You could meet all different types of people. You sit, you take it all in. I'm getting all these compliments. audience, and I'm thinking all I'm doing is sitting there listening to you, basically, being civil, which kind of goes pretty far. You just got to be kind of polite, in life. And so we hit it off great. Yeah, and then I get the Uber back, and actually since then the relationship took off like crazy, all because I took the time to fly to Miami to meet this other guy who blew me off on the next day. And so I meet this lady sort of by accident, but hey, I ran the ground ball out. That's a phrase I like to use, if there's a meeting, go to it, go in person. Going in person changes everything. It puts the face on you. It just humanizes you. People feel comfortable. It's just the in-person visit is I don't even know if it's underrated or rated or what, but I think everybody, if they ever have a chance to meet in person. Now, these other people have not met her. So now all of a sudden I'm like first in the pecking order. I was third. Now all of a sudden I'm the guy, so it's just that bond you get from meeting in person is you can't even explain how important it is. It just kind of, I went from third place to first, and now things are starting to take off a little bit on this thing. And it's all, I believe, because of the meeting I went to. And, and all I did was listen, and I gave a little points of advice, a little bit about what I do. But she did a lot of the talk. Sometimes people need people to talk to. They just want to kind of express their opinions and express their thoughts, and that's how they learn. They get the thoughts out, and when they get it out, they're learning. You always hear that stuff, that when you listen to people, you're helping them learn because they're sort of teaching themselves by teaching you, which I always kind of figured. And then they're feeling good about themselves, and you're smiling, you're repeating a little bit what they say to tell them you get what they're saying. She introduces me to the owner of the place. I stand up, I shake his hand, I smile. You don't want her to be embarrassed when she introduces you to people. You want to be someone that, she's like, I'm with this guy, that she's proud of it, So that was fantastic. And then it got a little bit better, because I get an Uber back to the airport, and she knew the way too. She goes, go by the beach and make a left at this area. It's a half hour. If you go back on the main interstate, which is, I don't even know the name of it, 495 or whatever it is, it's going to take you 3 hours because it's like 4 o'clock and it's rush hour. So she tells the taxi guy that, and he's like, wow, I never went that way. So I go listen to her. She lives here for 20 years. She knows. So we went to the beach, and it took a half hour. Now, during that half hour, this guy was from Cuba. And he was a Cuban, and he's lived here now for 12 years. And of course, when I heard that, I said, I got to ask this guy about Cuba, so I pull right into the passenger seat. Sometimes I go in the back, but I'm in Miami. There's a lot of things, nice sights to see. You got a beautiful hotel. So I'm sitting in the front. So I get in the front, and I ask him, I said, what was Cuba like? And then he began to tell me, I was curious. This guy was from there. Tell me what it's really like there, And he painted a very bleak picture of Cuba. It was almost shocking how bleak it was, and how you just feel so bad for the guy on a human level, and then you feel so lucky that you have all these opportunities. So I take it all in. So he gives me his life story in this half hour, and then he's talking about what it's like growing up. And I thought a couple of interesting points that he spoke of were, one was when you're a kid, you don't notice that you have bad, that it's bad. You're a kid, you're playing outside. The weather is good there most of the year or all year. It's summer. It's like Florida weather. So you're outside all the time. You're playing with kids. You're playing ball. You're playing this and that. And you don't really realize that that is so terrible, that it's a communist regime of a dictator, Fidel Castro is hoovering over you. Your family's making no money. You're getting by, but you're a kid. All you care about is waking up and playing the next day with your friends. You're not thinking about that stuff. Until I asked him, I go, what age did you figure it out? And he goes, 17. I hit 17, and then I started looking around, and I just started figuring out, like, why is there no food here? Why on this island is there nothing to eat or drink? Or why are we getting $5 a month pay? He started to figure out the conditions of his life, and how in this great seemingly great land, with farmland. You think that they'd be able to, have vegetation, farming, but he goes, there was no food. So it hit me that something's not right, and they keep the people down, and they keep the people fearful, and there's different people that are, what do they call them, informants that tell on people that get rewarded, so you got to really watch out what you say, and it just was... He started figuring out how to get out of Cuba at that point, So he was. It took him a while to figure it out, but I asked him. I said, "How many people, realize that this place is just you just got to leave it?" And he said, "A lot of people, believe it or not, are patriots, and they're into the Cuban thing. They're into the Cuban government. They actually, when they're a kid, they want to believe this thing, and they believe the propaganda." And I asked him, I go, do they believe it because, like I figure in North Korea, you got to praise the dictator because, you want to live. I go, are people doing it because of that reason? He goes, some are. But a lot of those kind of people, they actually, believe the whole thing. They're actually buying into it. As bad as that sounds, there's a major part of the population that is believing it. I go, wow. And he believed, too, that the reason why they pay the people so low money and, make it very difficult to work is to kind of control them more. Because now the people are hungry, they're weak. The weaker the people are, the better it is for the dictators and the few people that control the country. Which obviously, definitely makes sense. I never thought of that before. So I said, well, on the pay scale, like, what about doctors? Like, can you go to school to be a doctor or a lawyer or, something like that? And he said, you could. Yeah, there's doctors, there's lawyers, but they get no pay also. They get the same pay as some guy that was working in a warehouse. So they're not getting any pay. And the way it works, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or professional, the government ships you out to other countries, he told me, and then they'll get the pay, but the country keeps the pay. So say if I'm a major surgeon and I go out to another country, Venezuela, I don't even know, but just pick a country, and Venezuela will pay that guy, say, a normal doctor's salary of $90,000, say, but that guy still makes his $5 a day, and the Cuban government makes the $89,500. So they sort of use these people as ways to make money for the Cuban government. So I'm thinking, wow, now that's messed up. That's pretty bad. So I asked him, how did you, finally get out of there, Actually, before that, I did ask him, I said, because he says if they find out that you're not a patriot, they call it you're a revolutionary. That's the word they use for people that aren't buying into it, and I guess the guards and the police and so forth, get to know who those kind of people are. And this guy was one of those. I mean, he definitely wasn't buying into it, and he was, called a rebel. And basically what they do is they scare you, and if you continue being a rebel, they'll arrest you on, a false charge, and they'll put you in jail. And the jail in Cuba doesn't sound too good. You don't want to go to jail in Cuba. He don't know what the terminology is for the U.S. way of saying it, but he said it's like a hole. They put you in the hole, which I assume is like solitary confinement. I think I've heard of that phrase, the hole, which I think is literally a hole. They throw you in, it's dark, and they put a door on it, and then you just stay there. They put the food under the door, you don't see anybody, and, he said they hope you go crazy and those kind of things, and a lot of people do die, or, they take their lives because, it's just, the human conditioning, you can only take so much, and they actually want that. So that's another less person they have to worry about. So the jails sound like it's just a place that they hope you die. They treat you so bad. This guy managed to survive it. So, he was in jail. I didn't ask him for how long. He said something about months, but who knows? Maybe it was years. I don't want to get personal. I was surprised, actually, he told me he was in prison, but I guess he trusted me that I wouldn't judge him because I get it. I get they're going to put people in jail for no reason. It goes on everywhere. So I listened, and he He made me think, though, is, there's policy of that the U.S. does not accept. I think if you are an immigrant or you're from another country, if you have a criminal record, you can't come into this country. And I was thinking that's a little bit messed up, because I got a feeling half the world or even more in these places put criminal records on the good people. I mean, the bad people may not have criminal records. So you get this guy. He's independent thinking. He gets charged with this crime that he didn't commit. They throw him in jail for 2 years. Now he can't go anywhere because he has a criminal record. So now when you hear that, the criminals, it's like, well, these could be just good guys that are just independent minded, and the dictators don't like them, which I'm sure is the case, everywhere in the world. So that was interesting, So now I think different when I hear, well, we don't want the criminals in, or if you have a criminal record, you can't come in, because it's not really fair, because I'm sure the trial wasn't too fair, and then you get the worser guys that are free to have no records, So it's a little bit messed up, but I mean that's the way it is in Cuba. So I asked him, how did he come here? And he says he took a raft, and he took a raft with his son, and he came over. Excuse my dog in the background. She's still a little bit of a puppy. She's 4, but she still barks at the neighbor. So anyway, he came over on a raft with his son. I thought he said he went to Mexico, but my wife said when you go to Mexico, then there's no way to come here. You have to come straight to here. But there was some waterway to Mexico, is what I could have sworn is what he said. And then he went from Mexico and got in here. And I said, well, what do you think of it here? And he says he loves it. He goes, I got a job. I'm driving Uber. I'm doing this. He's doing like 3 other things. He's raising his kid in freedom. He says when people complain about not working, they shouldn't, because his job is all over the place. So he can never understand how people complain about not working. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That, yeah, you're right. I mean, this guy lived in the most squalor of circumstances. So he knows and appreciates what it's like to really work. And, he knows how bad things can be. So this guy was really appreciative of life over here, and he really, really liked it a lot. He still goes back there, not often, but he goes back, and he's able to come back here, maybe because he's the passport, or he was for a while. I don't know. I think they changed that. I think he did say they changed that. Now it's not as easy to go back there. That was changed, but he's okay with that though, because he's not a fan of the Cuban government at all, even though he still has family over there, So. And I asked him how his son's doing here, and he says at first his son had difficulty because he was so used to the school system there, and he was, kids would be fighting in class, and it was rough. I mean, you got no food, you're hungry in school, and he says there's a lot of fights. There's fights all over. So his son was used to that lifestyle, so he was just kind of fighting people in the classes here because that's just all he knew. Which I get that too. And then he went to seek some help, and he's doing a lot better now, he said. Again, that was 12 years ago. I think his boy is going into high school now. And it's gotten a lot better, but I think there's still some psychological scars, that may never go away. You might always have to work on it, So that really showed me kind of what life is really like there. And then as I got to the airport after he told me his name, I really couldn't pronounce it. He was very happy that I told him how to pronounce the word departure, because he could not, out of all the years he was driving Uber, he could not pronounce that word. He goes, how do you say that? I said, departure. He goes, departure, like with a C. I go, yeah, believe it or not, that's how you say that word. So he appreciated that. And I can't remember what his name was. So, but boy, when I got to the airport, I mean, I was super appreciative of everything, even having a cup of coffee, of after he described what life was like. So on the serendipity scale, that was good too, because if that didn't all happen, I would not have met this guy. I would not know that kind of piece of information of what life is like there, and I would not be able to appreciate life here, at the same time, So that was interesting. So I really enjoyed that whole trip there. So a lot of good stuff came out of it. Okay, in my next section, I want to talk about July 4th and what July 4th means to me. I mean, we're all individuals. I mean, we really got to be our own person, You got to go on your own time, and you got to do your own thing. You got to make your own friends. That's the great thing about this country. And I'm sure other countries, you get to choose. You get to choose who you want to hang out with. If you don't like, a group, then don't hang out with them. if you like a group. I mean, out of 7 billion people in the world, you're only going to have about 10 friends, maybe 3 good friends, so you might as well pick them. I mean, you're not going to have 2,000 friends, out of 7 billion, that's not even a lot. I mean, you're only going to have 3 to 10 friends. So you might as well pick who they are. Many will be acquaintances. So July 4th reminds me of the freedom to be able to do that. And July 4th reminds me of the heat. It's always a beautiful hot day. And I think of the pool, and I think of the beach. I think of like a picnic. I think of the hot dogs. I think of the total freedom to like have a day off, and you could do whatever the heck you want. I want to watch the Yankee game on the couch with my fan blowing overhead and with a hot dog in front of me or a soda, whatever you want to do. That's like the day to do it, and you don't owe anybody anything except for the founders to have freedom and choose what you want to choose. I think of July 4th, I think of the firecrackers, at nighttime, which is, as a kid, it was always exciting, and I'm sure that's like the bombs bursting in the air theory, and it makes you realize that, without that, we wouldn't be free, because the founders of the country and the first guys that went against the English to become free here were people that it was probably treason to England. Like George Washington, I'm sure was a pretty bad guy to them, so that's why you can't go by that stuff either. Like Nelson Mandela was in jail for 30 years, and they make him president. Just because that stuff happens, I mean, they're doing that for a reason. And when all those guys were villains of England, I mean, they needed weapons. I mean, the only way you could stop people from weapons, I mean, you have to have that kind of apparatus behind you, whether it's cannons or those rifles they shot. So they were able to have that, and they were able to win, and we won the Revolutionary War, and we declared our independence July 4th, 1776. That date's embedded in everybody's mind, 1776, and that was, I'm glad it was summer, because if it was if it was February 4th, 1776, that it seems like it has to be a summer day, I mean, you want to be outside and really, really appreciate the whole scene, So July 4th means all that to me. It means friends. It means family. It means watching a ball game. I'm just so glad that baseball is part of July 4th because it's just it's America's pastime. So it's just appropriate that it's that day. It's one of my favorite holidays. I think it should be nonpartisan. I think it should be bipartisan. I don't think there should be any political things with it. It should just be like anything, if I'm being treated by a hospital, it's just, we're all people, So to me, July 4th is that kind of thing, like, partisanships. I don't believe in it anyway, but we're all together. We're all Americans. Just like when I was a kid, we're all having fun. We're all in this thing together, trying to make our lives better, making other people's lives better, and living in unison together in peace, and posterity. We want peace, So, I mean, that's pretty much a general idea of what I think about July 4th, So it's a great holiday. I think of the patriotic music, I think of all the songs, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. You get patriotic because you're born in the country, and we do have a great country, So I mean, you just got to appreciate that kind of stuff, and look out for your fellow man, and kids and your friends' kids and all that. So it all comes together. July 4th. That's my favorite. I think that's my favorite holiday. It used to be Christmas, but I'm going. I'll do a top 10 holiday list one day too. But I'm going on record now as July 4th, my top holiday. My last section now, I'm going to talk about my top 10 all-time NBA basketball players, which is, I don't know. I think I got a pretty good list. I don't know too many people that could really top this one. And this goes back to the beginning of the NBA. And I will go with number 1 in 1 second. Hang on. Number 1 was a tough one for me because when you look at the film clips, I don't think I've ever seen anybody better than Michael Jordan. I mean, there's been great players, but I mean, he still seems to be far and above the best I've ever seen as far as skills goes. But the top NBA player in my mind because of all the championships, and I really battled with this because I really want this to be the definitive list. But I just cannot put anybody ahead of Bill Russell. He won 11 out of 13 NBA championships. He won the last 2 championships for San Francisco in college. So he won 13 out of 15 in a highly competitive, situation, and it was mostly all him. I mean, he was surrounded by great players, but if he's not on those teams, they're not winning the championships. So that's how much he dominated on the defensive end, how much he dominated psychologically. His offense was, he would score, 13 to 16, 17. It wasn't like it was 2 to 3. I mean, he would score a little bit, but he was the guy, he was a winner. Do you go with a winner? Or do you go with a guy that might have more skills but doesn't win? But the guy that wins knows how to win. There's a lot of things that goes into winning, to make everybody better. That's what Russell did. Everyone just loved him. Hey, he went against Chamberlain and beat him every year, as great as Will Chamberlain was. Average over 22, 24 rebounds a game. I mean, the clips are awesome. If you ever go on YouTube, I mean, his defensive clips are incredible. The rebounding and the block shots and all that. So, and there was one play when he blocked a shot at the end of a big championship game. The guy had like a half-court lead on him going in for a lay. I thought it was West, and Russell catches up to him and blocks the shot for the to end the game. I know Jordan couldn't do that. So he was able to win it on that end, and that's a pretty big end to win the game. Especially you're getting all the rebounds, you're getting the outlet pass, you're intimidating the other team, you're throwing them all off. The guy was pretty amazing, and he's revered around the world. He's sort of like the grandfather of basketball, it seems. Number 2, Michael Jordan, no question about that. I mean, Jordan was great. I've seen him play. It was like you couldn't keep your eyes off him. It was like he was a pro guy going against high school players. He had it all. Defense, offense, had that little turnaround shot he developed later on. His shooting got better. The intensity, those championships in 96, 90, in the late 90s run. I mean, the guy was great. He was the most charismatic player I've ever seen in person. So he's number 2. Number 3, it was tough for me. I kind of switched these guys around back and forth, but I guess I have to go with Will Chamberlain, number 3, because of the domination early in his career, the 50.4 points per game average, which is pretty sick, along with over 20 rebounds. He dominated the game. Of course, he was the main big player, but he got rebounds. You watch clips of Will; he was unstoppable. I mean, he was so strong and powerful. I mean, his teams always won. They just didn't win the championship, but they were always in it. And he would be number 3 to me. A close 4th would be Kareem Jabbar. I mean, they met together, Chamberlain and Jabbar, later in Wilt's career, beginning of Kareem's. I mean, Kareem outplayed him because, Wilt tried to block that sky hook, from a leaping position, which was funny. He got it a few times, but, I mean, Kareem had probably the most powerful weapon ever in the NBA, which was that sky hook. It was smooth. I've seen him play several times in person. I mean, that hook was sweet. I mean, he got rebounds too. He was intense. He won the championships. He's all-time NBA scorer. I mean, kudos to Kareem. I always liked Kareem. It was Lou Alcindor early on, changed his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So I got him number 4. Number 5 was close again. I switched these 2 guys around. I got to go with Larry Bird because I love the Celtics, as most people know that. And he had that special thing going. He in his prime. He was unreal. He really was. He had that shot, the 3-point shot. He had it all. I mean, he wasn't quick, as I say, but he pulled it all off. I mean, he would go back door. He was smart. He was sneaky smart. He was clutch. I'm going Bird 5. 6, Magic Johnson. He was right up there, like, I don't know. I mean, they're close. You might be able to switch them back and forth between 5 and 6, but Magic was unstoppable as a guard. Had that back down type style with that little baby hook, as he called it. The assists, the enthusiasm. He was something to behold. So I'm going Magic 6, 7. 7, I'm going to go Shaquille. Excuse me. I take that back. I'm going to go LeBron James because he just has all the tools. Physically better than Jordan. I mean, on a physical nature. I mean, he's 6'8" and muscle. You know, Jordan was 6'8". He got muscle at the end. He was a little thinner in the beginning. He's strong, but LeBron James was full package, strength. Shot's good. He developed a 3-point shot, and the guy's exceptional skills, maybe more so than Jordan in some ways. Even though I can't put him up there with Michael Jordan, but I'm going to go number 7 for LeBron James. Number 8, my guy Hondo John Havlicek. 8 championships. People forget how great he was. From what I've seen, he was the all-around package with his all-around play. He never stopped running, had a nice shot. He was a winner. You know, John Havlicek, number 8. Number 9, I'm going Shaquille O'Neal because of the mere power that he had. I saw him a few times. He was unreal, you know, the strength he had. And I mean, he got championships also. You know, he got quite a few of those. And, you know, his shot wasn't great. They had the Shaq attack where they put him on the foul line. He was a little weak there. But, I mean, the guy inside 10 feet in the paint was something I've never seen before. Of course, I didn't see Chamberlain in his prime, but Shaquille was probably as close to Wilt in his prime as you're going to get. I'm going to go number 10. I'm going to go with tied with a lot of people. I got to go tie with Big O, Oscar Robertson, because all those triple doubles he averaged. I got to go Jerry West. He was Mr. Clutch, as they say. He was something in his prime. The Dr. J, Julius Erving. He was the first player that kind of had that like at the foul line dunk shot, and the Doctor was a favorite. Elgin Baylor, who never seen play, but he was like Dr. J before Dr. J. Akeem Olajuwon, forget how great he was. I mean, he was quite a unique center. Had that great little shot, and he was good at a bunch of stuff. And you know, averaged 30 a game a lot of years. So Hakeem Olajuwon, I think it was Akeem at the end, wasn't it? Akeem Olajuwon is tied for 10, and Rick Barry, I got to go tied for 10. Rick was a great player. I mean, he was a great passer, very good hands, good defense, great foul shooter, 90% at the line, 1 or 2 top ever at the foul line. And like I said, he was a great passer and a great shooter. He played with the Nets that one run. He used to pull up from 3 on a fast break, 1 on none. I always loved when he used to do that. So Rick was my top, number 10 tied. So that's my top 10 definitive basketball list. I'll have to think of another sport on my next one. So I hope you like my my basketball picks. I mean, you could always argue these things. That's what's fun about sports. But you know, I mean, my top 3 or 4, I think are you could place them 1, 2, 3, 4 either way. But I don't think you could argue too much about those first 4 picks. You know, so. I always have a lot of fun with it. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a happy July 4th. I want everybody to enjoy the rest of the summer, and I want everybody to tune in for my podcast. And next week I'll have another Catching Up with Ray. We'll see what the week brings. Who knows? That's the great thing about life is you don't know what's going to happen. You know, so I'll report on whatever that is that happens. So signing off, I'm Ray K, and we'll catch you next time.